Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Malik Pancholi, and I'm the co-founder of Act to Change. Happy Pride. Thank you for joining us today. As always, please take a second to hop onto the chat, introduce yourself, let us know where you're from. Feel free to share some thoughts on there during the conversation. But if you have questions for our panelists, which I hope you will, please use the Q&A feature. We will moderate those and hopefully have some time for Q&A a little bit later. There has been a lot of turmoil in the last several weeks, but in the midst of all of that, we have some amazing things to celebrate as well. On June 15th, in a decision that has been called one of the court's most significant rulings ever with respect to the civil rights of gay and transgender individuals, the Supreme Court ruled that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects LGBTQ employees. This is a huge victory and a bright spot in the middle of Pride Month. But with this win, we also know that LGBTQ kids and AAPI LGBTQ kids are still being bullied at very high rates. In fact, these are some statistics from the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network and the Human Rights Campaign. So at Act to Change, we want to support the AAPI LGBTQ youth that we serve while continuing to build solidarity with Black lives. And the two are deeply connected, so we can look at the history of Pride to see that. 51 years ago, this coming Friday, New York City police violently raided the Stonewall Inn, attacking drag queens, transgender people, and gay people. But this time, the community stood up in protest, and this revolution, which became Pride, was led by trans women of color. We should say their names: Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera. We owe them a great debt. So to talk about how our struggles are connected and how to continue building solidarity, we have an amazing panel. I'm so excited to have all these people here today. Please join me in welcoming them. First, she is on the groundbreaking FX series Pose and the hit show American Horror Story 1984. She is the recipient of a GLAAD Award and has broken all kinds of barriers as the face of Louis Vuitton's pre-fall ad campaign. She is the founder of Trans Tech Social Enterprises, an incubator for LGBTQ talent with a focus on economically empowering transgender people. Please welcome Angelica Ross.
Yay. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we have former NFL football player Essera Tuaolo. He was a finalist for the Lombardi Award and the Outland Trophy and a winner of the Morris Trophy. He is the founder of Hate is Wrong, a nonprofit that fosters diversity in sports and anti-bullying among youth. He is also an amazing singer and was a top 20 finalist on season 13 of The Voice. Hi, Essera.
Hi, aloha. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, she needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway. She has been a huge anti-bullying and gay rights advocate. She is the winner of too many awards and nominations to name, including Emmys, Grammys, awards from the ACLU, Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund, and a Lifetime Achievement Award from Los Angeles Pride. Comedian, actress, author, singer, host of the Margaret Cho podcast. What doesn't she do? Margaret Cho. Hey, Margaret.
Hi. Hi. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. I'm just going to switch my view so that I can actually see you all. I'm so grateful to all of you coming out to join us as we talk about not only LGBTQ pride, but also continued solidarity with Black Lives Matter and Black Trans Lives Matter. There has been so much going on in the world right now. And even with the Supreme Court decision, the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the disproportionately high number of murders of Black trans people like Tony McDade, Rhea Milton, Dominique Remy Fells, it has made Pride in 2020 look very different from past Prides. And so Angelica, I'd love to start with you. Pose, which you are so phenomenal on, has been so important in humanizing the stories of trans people. And you've been such a fierce advocate in the movement right now. I've been watching you on social media and so many of your other webinars that you've been doing. I'm curious what Pride has meant to you historically in your own journey, and also how this year feels different. And also where are we with Pride, which started out as a movement started by trans women of color, actually being inclusive of trans women of color.
Yeah, I have to say that we have made a lot of progress. So we have made so much progress. So I want to just acknowledge that. But also, I know that as a Black trans woman, as soon as I transitioned, Pride was not our holiday. You asked so many trans women, and that was just not for us. That was for the gay white boys. And it wasn't even until probably I was introduced to Black Pride that I actually started to see a kind of a diversity, even in gender spectrum and events being held. My queer young self mostly grew up in the Chicago area, I would say. And, walking down a street lined with rainbows was so inspiring. And yet at the same time, it was such an oppressive street for Black and brown people. I worked the strip as a showgirl at one of the famous show bars there. But I was working my tail off for dollars, mind you. But also when I stepped off that stage into the streets, the parade just passes us by. We're struggling in the margins and in the alleys and, getting beat up and killed in the alleys, and the parade just continues and the party continues. And, I just was like, I'm not proud of this. And so, now so many years later, I have to say, Pride returning with this sort of spirit of rebellion and riot gives me something to be proud of. Seeing trans people, and specifically Black trans people, be centered is starting to give me something to be proud of. So I'm glad to be participating more in Pride.
Yeah, I think the first Pride parade I went to was in Chicago, actually, because I went to undergrad in Chicago, and I don't even think I was out at the time. I think I was so closeted, and I had friends who were like, we're gonna go down to the Pride parade, and I remember having a similar feeling. And I think that we've, I know all three of you have probably spoken at so many, LGBTQ fundraisers, and you look out at the audience, and it does feel like it's predominantly gay white men who have led the movement, which is something, of course, we owe so much to. But on the other hand, I have also historically felt left out of that. Do you feel like with the movement that's happening right now around Pride, Angelica, do you feel like this is a lasting change that will affect the way Pride moves forward in the coming years?
I believe so, but the reason why I believe so is because of Black and brown, queer and trans folks, because this has been happening over some time. We have been given language from social justice trainings over years. And some of these girls, Elle Hearns, Lala Bizanel, Hope Giselle, a lot of these girls coming up now are so brilliant with their analysis that they're able to both hold the community accountable and able to sort of push, just thinking about our candidates that are running for, office. It's just, for me, it's just not fair or just unbelievable that someone could be a representative of our community and could try to lead us into that sphere, but not have the language of the community, not know the basics from sex work to ableism to all the intersections. Black and brown trans women kind of, because of the marginalization, we know about, immigration, we know about reproductive rights, we know about, all of these different things that aren't brought to the table when we have these figureheads that are only speaking to that white gay male audience.
Yeah. Well, we definitely want to talk about some intersectionality in a little bit, and also this idea of making sure that we're all educated and that the people who need to be educated about us are educating themselves. So we'll definitely get back to that. Essera, I want to ask you too. So we're thinking a lot about solidarity right now, and as I think about what solidarity means, something that occurs to me about you is that you have bridged two seemingly disparate worlds. The sports world, which I think a lot of us think of as traditionally a homophobic arena, and the LGBTQ community. You were one of very few NFL players to have ever come out. Can you just tell us a little bit about your own journey with that, and also how has that impacted you becoming an advocate for the community?
Well, Malik, awesome to be here right now. I gotta tell you, wow, it's 35 years of my life I've been in the closet, right? Living that straight life, living, not knowing anything about my brothers and sisters of the LGBTQ community. I remember here in Minneapolis, going downtown, and it was Pride Month or the Pride Parade, and I would like turn around and just sort of kind of scoot the other way because I was living in that homophobic arena, right? Also, not only that, reversed a little bit sooner in this culture, this masculine culture, this Polynesian culture that I also was living in. But I tell you, when I came out in 2002, and it felt amazing, incredible, right? I felt empowering, and I tell people I felt light as a feather, but when I jumped on the scale, I was still 300 pounds. So it was one of those things where, but I tell you, it was, going through all of that in my lifetime, and in the NFL was so homophobic and not being able to be my true self, and watching from afar, like a lot of leaders in our country, LGBTQ leaders, and not having an opportunity to. I tell you, when I came out, it was absolutely amazing. I felt unbelievable, right? It felt incredible. So sort of kind of like the first thing I wanted to do is to sort of kind of bridge that gap between the profession that I was in and the newly love for the people that I am, right? The LGBTQ community. It felt absolutely amazing. It felt incredible. So I did. I created. Hate is Wrong, but also it was just so amazing just to have that empowerment, man. The people listen to you, not having to hide, right? Not having to turn around from Pride events. It was absolutely incredible. I thought for the first time in my life, like, holy shit, I can I came to a crossroad where either I was quoting like Shakespeare, to be or not to be. Either I lived that American life, right? The 2 dogs, the 2 kids, the white picket fence minus the wife, or I become part of the solution, right? To get out there and to speak and to use my voice. And I didn't really understand the impact that I had. Because when you're living in a bubble, when you're living in that small bubble, right, with just a sort of small, you have little support, you don't realize and stuff the impact it is when you come out as an NFL player or whatever, right? And it was incredible to be able to work with a bunch of people. I remember like my first speech was at the University of Indiana, right? And all white, right? First of all, I didn't see myself in the crowd. I didn't see anybody in the crowd like me. And I remember I had a suit and tie. I had, all my graphs. I was doing all of this. I was talking about the LGBTQ community and all. And I stopped in the middle of it. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry. And I apologize to everybody because I didn't know anything about the LGBTQ community because I was living that isolated life. But I tell you what, I told them all I knew is what I could tell you is a story about my life, right? And so that's what I did. I took off the coat, I turned off the projector, and I just told people about my journey coming to where I am to that point in my life. And I tell you, it was very empowering and it was very incredible to be able to do that. And I have 2 beautiful kids, and it was amazing just to be able to come out and them know that their fathers were proud of who they were. And so to answer your question, right, to becoming an advocate, wow, I don't think it was a choice, man. It was just one of those things where I felt in my heart and soul that I needed to be part of the solution. I needed to get out there and use my voice to help. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't was jumping into something, the fear of the unknown. But I tell you what, I took that leap of faith, and here I am with you guys, just being able to voice my opinion, to make sure people understand that love is love, right? And there's a lot of problems out there that we need to solve, and we are going to do it together, right? As a whole, we can't have this.
Welcome to the party, brother. Welcome to the party. Yes.
Black lives matter, trans lives matter, all lives matter, all this, Polynesian lives matter, Asian lives matter, man. We all have to come together and work together to make sure everyone has equality, so I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for everything you said. I just want to say too that I think that that's something that people outside of the community might not fully understand. I heard you talk about what I heard as the stress of living a lie, and I lived that for a long time, and it is it's so painful, and there's so much planning and so much, trying to figure out how people are going to react and what can you do to make them react a certain way. And if you do this, maybe they'll act like that. And it's, it's very mentally debilitating, honestly, to live a lie.
But I have to tell you this and stuff. When you live that life for the longest time, it becomes part of your life, right? It becomes the every single day of your life where you wake up, no problem, right? You rise up every single morning when you don't even want to rise up, looking over your shoulder. It just becomes part of your life. When you come out and then you realize all the things that you sacrifice, right? All the times and stuff you put yourself on the back burner and stuff like that, not being able to be proud of who you were, that's when it becomes all screwed up, right? You start looking at your life in the past, it's like, wow, man, all the hoops that I jumped through just for you.
Yeah.
No more, right?
And also all the energy that goes into that then you get to put into something like actually meaningful and valuable, and all the positive stuff that you're doing. That's amazing. Well, you also talked about sharing your own personal story,
right.
Which I really loved. And Margaret, I want to talk to you too. In terms of personal stories, you have said that getting picked on, not having a feeling of belonging is something that you feel very deeply despite all of your successes. I think it's so important for young people to hear that. I think it's often easy to be like, well, once I get to that place, all my problems will go away. But in fact, I hear you saying something a little bit different. And you've spoken very publicly about intense bullying, sexual assault, rape that you've endured. But you also have talked about sharing your stories as a way to heal. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your own experience and how you shared your story to help others not be bullied.
Well, I think it's something that doesn't go away. I think those feelings of victimization really stay with you. And the only way to really overcome it is to share that and realize how common it is, how common that experience it is. Like, especially if you're queer, because I think queerness is something that other people can really sense, and that people fear the other. And when you're othered in that way, it really makes you a target. And so it's something that is very common amongst us and something that we share. And I think it's a kind of a healing thing when you can see how much we share this experience. And also the othering also is like something that is like very common amongst like us, and like kind of being in the closet and like dream deferral, especially I think for Asian Americans. Like, it's a weird thing of like trying to appease the immigrant parents by doing these careers that we don't want to be in, or doing these lives that we don't want to be in, so that our parents will be satisfied by our lives. And so, so like we're living both our existences so that we're kind of cheating on our lives with our other lives. It's like so weird. I mean, this kind of charade of kind of pretending that we're going to be happy, or living out these like fake lives in order for other people to be happy about us. It's a very weird thing of trying to pretend that we're happy when we're not. And it's a weird thing of, you see this play out actually in Asia a lot, where they hire people to be in a wedding, where you'll hire fake friends or fake family, or you'll hire like a fake boyfriend or fake wife, or like it's a weird thing of like a whole charade of players to play family members or friends or loved ones. And it's something that we shouldn't have to do, but we do this in order to appease others, that we have a sort of semi-happy life or something.
Yeah. Well, but I feel like what I'm hearing you talk a lot about is like this idea of what I'm hearing is like authenticity, like not pretending to be someone that you're not, whether it's around your career or the people you invite to your wedding, but certainly in your sexuality. But I also feel like for me, I feel like your comedy, part of what makes it so fun is that it does feel so authentic. It feels like you are literally speaking your truth on stage, and we're all able to laugh at it, not because we're laughing at you, but because we recognize, I think, so much of that. Certainly, I do as an Asian American queer person, but I'm just curious, like how did that evolve for you? I hear you talking about these inauthentic sort of versions of oneself, how do you then suddenly stand up on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people and tell your story? Where does that courage come from?
I think it's like trying to get to the actual truth of who I am and then trying to figure out what that is, because of like, you know, like spending so much time in the lies of my being and trying to figure out, like, to parse out what that truth actually is kind of hard to find. When you spend your life in a kind of closet and putting on so many different disguises, it's hard to figure out what actually does spark joy. It's like another Asian thing. It's like when you try to KonMari your existence, like what does spark joy? Like, I'm not really sure. There's so many disguises of who we are. Like, who actually are we? Like, when we throw everything out, like what's actually left? And that's the process of discovery. Like, who are we at the end of all of it? Like the authentic self.
Yeah. Would you say that your comedy is in a way exploring what's going to spark joy?
Yes, I'm actually Marie Kondo.
That's
what I found out.
I love that. Well, so listen, I want to definitely talk about solidarity and how we can continue to build support within colors of community as well as the LGBTQ community. So I do want to talk about that a little bit. And so, Margaret, just, you know, in sticking with what with your Marie Kondo alter ego, but Margaret, you've also described yourself as the patron saint of outsiders. You have said that you speak up for people who are not able to speak for themselves, and you encourage people who can to use their voice to promote change. I know that you've been very active in the space right now as well. I've seen you on a number of conversations, always so amazing. I've seen you on social media. How has thinking about solidarity, not just in this moment, but in your whole career, how has solidarity shaped your thoughts and your activism?
Well, it's exciting to see now all of these different elements around social change grouping together. You know, I think the gay liberation is nothing without Black liberation, and Black liberation is nothing without queer liberation, and queer liberation is nothing without Black trans lives. You know, like, we are all connected and we all need each other to survive, but we've been separated by white supremacy. And when we can come together, we are the majority, but we don't have each other yet. And when we can actually come together, when we have solidarity, we can really, really, really affect change. And that's what I'm hoping for.
But, you know, I think there's a real systemic reason why we're not all together. It's the reason why everyone's not in the streets when immigrant children are in cages. It's the reason why everyone's not in the street when Black trans women are dying. It hasn't gotten close to their door yet. White supremacy has afforded us enough of a privilege to feel comfortable enough in this moment. So I think that, like, even when we talk about racism, like, every Black and brown person experiences racism, but Black people experience it differently. They're racialized differently. There's a lot of things that come along with the Black skin, working in with, whether it's lazy, you know, all the things that come up, fear, all the different things immediately when you see Black skin. And other races experience racism too. But if you're not the ones who, like, because again, we're telling our kids, well, if you just got an education, pull up your pants, if you just performed your Blackness in a certain way that was acceptable to white people, then maybe we wouldn't get killed. But then we see all of these different ways that you can still be an acceptable Black person and still get accosted by the police or still get violated or what have you. So when I think, you know, the fact that a lot of these faces are Black bodies, the fact that I can watch, you know, like I remember watching George Lopez, like a George Lopez special, and he was like making a joke about the fact that, you know, the family, you know, was saying, like, make sure you just don't bring a Black woman home, you know, sort of situation, and how it's just sort of understandable thing that you just don't want to bring someone Black home to even other people who are not Black and not white, you know what I mean? So we even though we experience things differently, it's somehow known that at least you don't want to be Black.
Yeah, and it's really, please go ahead.
No, I agree with you guys. It's absolutely, you know, that's true and stuff. It's so for me, not just for me and stuff, but what you guys are saying, but I think it feels different now, right? It definitely feels different. It's ringing across the world, right? My brothers and sisters in New Zealand and Samoa and, you know, the LGBT, everyone's standing up, right? I think it just feels, and it feels amazing, right? Just to hear everyone. So I think moving forward now with all of the things that we have learned with, you know, transphobia and homosexuality and everything, I have it's a promising future for all of us, right? I just feel that in my bone, you know, you pray about it. And, you know, talking about white supremacy, but not only that, Christianity as well. It sort of kind of adds to that. And I'm going to go there because a lot of people, right? You know, a lot of people sort of kind of skirt around that, right? Christianity, right? How they can preach the word, right? And anyway, you guys can chime in on that.
No, go there. Wait, listen, because I usually go there. So listen, I'm sitting back with a popcorn. Wait.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I grew up Pentecostal Hallelujah church. You know? So I've read the Bible a few times and stuff. And so when I do these workshops with homosexuality and religion, man, I tell you what, it's I just let them talk. I was on the Donahue show years before when like back in 2003, and they brought in some coalition, Christian coalition, family values and stuff. They surprised me. So my Howard Bragman was my publicist, and so he comes in all pissed off. He's like, they brought in somebody, and I said, and that's the problem. Why? He go, oh, that's right, you're one of them, right? Yeah, because I am a gay Christian. I know the Bible, right? So what I try to say, I just let him talk. And when Donahue told me, do you have anything to say, Ezra? I said, yes, I want you. Can you please rewind that tape? And sir, can you tell me the positive things and God's love in what you just said, right? Because it all was just hate. Because regardless if you don't like the color of my skin, brown, black, or whatever, I'm still a child of God. So when you stand before your father and stuff, what are you going to say? When he asks you, oh, why did you discriminate against Ezra and the LGBTQ community? What are you going to say? Because they're gay? Sorry, that's not good enough. Bye. See ya. So I just want like my brothers and sisters in the community to understand that God loves them, right? And, to sort of kind of read the Bible. And because if you don't, no one does a book report by just what they see on television or hear on the radio, right? They do a book report of things that you read. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. I don't care what religion you are or whatever it is. Something that has to do with good, you can take all those positive things and apply it to your life, apply it to people's lives, right? And that's my 2 cents in the matter.
I think you made but that's a really important point. I'm a Buddhist. I've had my trauma from Christianity. Right. I believe what I believe about it, even as a Black person, and the roots of it. However, I still see, like you're saying, that if there is a tool that take the positive, where it's trying to gear you towards a positivity, then use those tools. Right. Find your faith in that. Yeah.
Well, all the propaganda that they preach at us and stuff, like they're going to hell, all of this, we're an abomination. Man, you better go learn the Bible before you even open your damn mouth. You better go and see. In order to for you to say something, you better go learn. Don't come with me on quotes of things when you give me one quote, I'll give you 10 other ones, 100 other ones, right? So that's just, like you said, it's one of the things that we need to hold on to in power. I read a verse when I was in 6, 7 years old in a Pentecostal church, and it said, don't put your trust in the flesh, because the flesh will fail you, but put your trust in God. He'll never fail you. That's the reason I'm here today, because I put my trust in God. Not the flesh, not people, not the pastors, not my family, not friends, not any of that. I put my trust in God. And I tell you what, my God is a God of love. So.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. Guys, I want to talk, this is amazing, and I feel like I could just let this go on, but I also want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about the way you've used your platforms to support communities. And so Essera, maybe we'll just build on what you're talking about, because I do want to talk about Hate is Wrong. Act to Change is an anti-bullying organization. So we're obviously very in line with everything you're doing at Hate is Wrong, but obviously you're focused on inclusion in the sports world and bringing, I believe, LGBTQ kids in the sports world and addressing bullying there. But I do also want to ask you, just in this in this world of solidarity, the NFL, there's a historic issue around people of color in the NFL. We've seen football players take a lot of flack for taking a knee against police brutality, and sort of being told we're paying you to do a job as opposed to being a human being, I think, was kind of the messaging we're getting around that. And then we had Jeremy Lin on for one of these conversations a few months ago. And Jeremy talked a lot about the lack of Asian representation at all in the sports world. And so I'm curious, not only what are you doing with Ed Hate Is Wrong, what are you guys about, but also how do you talk about color as well as LGBTQ issues to the youth that you're serving?
You know, I'm going to go back to what you just said with Colin Kaepernick taking the knee, and you know, for police brutality for our brown and our black brothers and sisters out there. But it was so crazy and stuff because people sort of kind of took that and twisted it a little bit, right? He came out saying that he was doing this for police brutality, right, and all of that. But then obviously somebody else chimed in, and we all know who that is and stuff, saying that it was disrespect to our veterans, disrespect to the United States of America. So it sort of kind of changed that whole dynamics of all that. And so it's funny because when all of this started happening, then now people realize why he took that knee, right? Why he took that knee, right? And so people are saying, oh, I get it now. Like, okay, you know. But in actuality, it's just so crazy, you know, how that sort of kind of evolved. Hate Is Wrong. We work with, you know, to foster diversity within sports and the LGBTQ community. Also, we foster, anyway, so we work with a lot of anti-bullying programs, right? So the reason why people ask me why I'm so passionate about bullying and stuff like that is because I was bullied when I was a little kid. Yeah, the 6'4", 300-pound Samoan back in the days, right, was bullied. I was beat, I was molested, I was all of that. So I know how it feels to you know, be neglected. I know how it feels to be shamed. I know how it feels to be alone and all of that. And I never wanted that for anybody else, right? So when the opportunity for me to, with my organization, to give back to the community and work with a lot of these organizations and to raise money for them, I took it. And you know, it's one of those things where we do an inclusion party at the Super Bowl. And we also do an inclusion panel, which I would love for you guys to come and speak at this coming, if we even have a Super Bowl. And what we do is, at the inclusion panel, we bring in experts from around the country to talk about the issues, right? And to sort of talk about how we can work through, right? The solution to all of that. And then also we throw an inclusion party where 100% of the proceeds go to anti-bullying programs or organizations within where the Super Bowl is. And it's one of our ways to just sort of kind of, those are our big things to give back to the community. Also, we put forth a bunch of education out in the community where I go around the country and I speak on homophobia in sports. We speak on anti-bullying, inclusion, diversity, and stuff like that. So that's in a nutshell, right, the elevator pitch. So I'm very proud of the people that I work with and people that have been, you know, an advocate for you know, eliminating hate. And so it's one of those things where I thank God every single day that I'm alive, right? I thank God every single day that He gives me this opportunity to speak up, because all multiple times of me getting knocked down and telling me that I'm not good enough and all of that, the opportunity for me to stand up and have that opportunity to share the love is amazing. So, so anyway. I think I've talked too much. We need to give it to somebody else.
I know. I'm in. I'm also speaking on the panel, and also,
yeah, exactly.
and also, you know, just hopefully we will continue to find ways to work together between Act to Change and Hate Is Wrong.
Exactly.
Angelica, you do so many things. You're also a businesswoman and a self-taught coder, yeah. And I know that you founded Trans Tech Social Enterprises, and I'm curious, A, what compelled you to found this organization, but also how is the work you're doing at Trans Tech Social also building solidarity amongst communities?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, I would think that So I would think that so many more people could know more about trans tech. Because, you know, I appeared on the Caitlyn Jenner show when she had her reality TV show, like during the first season, and we were educating around trans issues and all of that. Um, and, you know, started to speak and tell my story about why I was at that point and even developing trans tech. And the fact is that I developed trans tech as my own survival map. I have been fired from several jobs. And after finally just trying to do the juggle, um, the adult industry was just looking so much better. I was, you know, folks were offering me work in which not only was I not going to be called a man, but I was going to be affirmed in my identity, you know, as a trans woman, as well as like be paid and, you know, all this thing. So I was gravitating towards the adult industry because that was the only, it seemed like the only opportunity. I was also getting used to, the idea of kind of living on the back pages of newspapers, you know, in those sections where folks were putting ads and things like that. And just like, sort of like, I remember that time of just sort of like accepting, okay, so this is what it's going to be. And then the woman who ran the website was like, actually, I see you're pretty, you know, whizzy on that computer. Instead, you know, how about you help me run this website? And really, she was just trying to save a bunch of money from paying the webmaster that she was paying. And she saw I could do the things and I needed a place to stay and all these different things. So for my room and board, basically, I helped run her website. I became a webmaster. Then I started teaching myself computer skills and photo retouching and content management systems, all these different freelance skills. And I basically worked on so many projects that people didn't even know if I was trans or not, because I was working remotely and virtually. There were even times when I designed graphics for Cedric the Entertainer for one of his concerts, also for Ludacris, and they still don't know probably that Angelica Ross designed, you know, their stuff. So, but if knowing that, this was then something that was like, wait a minute. So for all my trans folks, you know, depending on wherever they are in their journey and spectrum, this is it. Technology can be the catalyst at wherever their transition is to either give them sort of like remote work, help them learn new skills in order to get into a job, or even using technology as a harm reduction model. And so I learned about the harm reduction model through organizations like HIPS in Washington, D.C. that works with sex workers, and they do like needle exchange programs. And the reason why they're doing needle exchange programs is so that the people who are shooting up and doing drugs don't contract HIV. That's all about a harm reduction strategy. And there's various ways with various folks that do harm reduction. So applying technology to a harm reduction strategy in sex work says that instead of the girls being so vulnerable on the streets, they can take a step back into hotel rooms and into their own bedrooms and just chat behind a screen and show a little skin here, show OnlyFans becomes pretty popular. Beyonce singing about it. You know what I mean? So basically trying to create a space where it is non-elite, it's not judgmental, it's not anti-Black, it's not ableist. It's about meeting people where they are. And if you want to be a coder, we can connect you to those resources and pipeline for employment and training. If you want to become a beauty influencer on YouTube, if you want to do filmmaking, do a podcast, whatever it is, it's about being excellent though. You're going to be excellent because you got to be excellent in order to compete.
I love that. It's so, you know, I think we've been talking a lot about like the systemic ways in which people are oppressed and how to reverse that. and I feel like that's what you're talking about, and I'm so grateful that you're you're doing that work. I want to, Angelica, you actually brought this up earlier, but we talked about intersectionality. And by the way, I'm going to open this up to audience Q&A in just a few minutes. So if you guys have questions, I know we already have a few that have come in that I am seeing here. But if you have more, please feel free to hop on the Q&A and pop them in. But I do, so, you know, we're a very interesting group, the four of us, you know, and there are kids out there who identify with aspects of each of us, you know, whether they are trans or bi or gay or Pacific Islander or Black or Korean or South Asian, whether they love sports or music or writing or comedy or tech or acting, you know, whatever it is, we are, just by being here today, we're offering representation that's much needed. And I'm curious, I'd just like to ask each of you if you have, you know, words of advice or encouragement or hope that you would offer to a young person who identifies with some aspect of your experience. And Margaret, I'll start with you.
I think it's really just find out what you want to do. And it's like not defer your dreams for anyone else's. Just figure out who you are and what you want and do it, because life is really short. And I realize that as I grow older, you know, I'm 51 and I just realize how old I am.
Sickening.
Sickening,
Margaret.
Yeah. Thank you. But it's very like, it's shocking how we wake up so much older. You know, I still feel so young, but you really get, the years go by very quickly. And so it's very important to figure out who you are and what you want, and know that it goes by faster than you think. So figure out what your dream is and go live it right away.
Right.
Absolutely.
Wow, I love that.
Well, to piggyback on Margaret, you know, I'm 52 years old, and exactly what you just said.
Wow.
I agree with that.
That melanin job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, right? So, but you know, for you know, the millennial, right? The generation gap between myself and the millennials and the generation, what is it, Z, right now, right? Is that they all have they have things at their fingertips now, right? That they can go out there and they can learn about transphobia, homosexuality, all of that, you know, everything, which is absolutely amazing. But back when we didn't have any of that, right? So it's just, you know, for my advice to them is to sort of dive in, right? Like what I did with Indiana University. After that, I just sort of kind of dove in and I learned about Stonewall. That's where the battle started, right? And we're still in the war. And you know, just sort of kind of like just dive in and educate yourself on transphobia and homosexuality and all the issues that we have out there, right? Because it's at your fingertips and it's incredible, right? And like, you know, Margaret was saying, life is too short, but also too long not to be happy, right? Not to live your truth. And, you know, 35 years of my life, I look back, man, I should have came out earlier. But, you know, obviously it was a different generation, right? A different time, because, man, if I felt this way and played in the NFL, sky is the limits, man. You know, just to have that empowering. And so my advice to the, you know, that athlete that's in the closet, right? And to that, you know, things will get better, right? Educate yourself, but then things will get better. And when you're time for you to come out and empower yourself, you're going to have people there to welcome you home, like, you know, Angelica did to me. So, you know, it's going to be, it's stuff like that. We're definitely living in different times. Things are starting to get better. We're not there yet, but, you know, between all of us and the people out there that's, you know, using their voices, I tell them the thing under their nose and below their chin, above their chin is called a mouth. Use it, right? Find your voice, yell, scream, shout, all of that, right? And, you know, just be empowered that way, right? And like Killer Mike said, let's use that, you know, let's use that energy and stuff to beat up all these politicians that don't, like, you know, don't believe, you know, that are just sitting and not doing anything, right? Power is in the vote, you know? And I think I'm just, yeah, I just keep talking and talking, and I'm sorry because I just love being here with all y'all. So this is pretty cool.
Fantastic. I'm gonna ask you a question about what you just said about using your mouth, but Angelica, I just want to ask if you have any words of advice for that young person out there who is watching you today and identifies with your experience.
Yes, I would just say to live and breathe intersectionality with just every day, live and breathe it. And in ways of doing that is understanding first how intersectional you are and being able to identify every day new parts of yourself that you're not ashamed to bring into, you know, your families, into your friends, into your circles. And when you're able to do that, Janet Mock talks about it in her book, Surpassing Certainty, of just finally getting to this place where you don't feel like you have to hide part of yourself or leave part of yourself behind. Understanding also about intersectionality and what each of those different things, you know, need and require. So just thinking about our LGBTQIA community, you know, and again, just specifically speak intersex folks and folks who are asexual, you know, not allies, folks who are asexual, and understanding that we all are evolving within these identities. And as we do so, we claim those identities in different ways. So say, for instance, as gay men have reclaimed the F word that I don't use, you know. And there are some trans girls actually too that reclaim the T word. I don't really use it, but you know, every once in a while, while my girlfriends, you know, we kiki. And as Black people, we have reclaimed the N word, you know, and I do use that one a lot. But just saying that I, as a Black woman, I can use that word and I can claim that, but do understand and respect other folks. And I would never use the F word because I don't have the relationship or community to do so. And that's when, you know, when I remember Dave Chappelle got on stage and he talked about, like, how is it that I can say the N word all day, but if I say the F word, you know, the people are down my throat. And I was like, wow, you so profoundly just, you know, just did the argument right there. Like, you're not gay, so you can't use that word, sweetie, but go ahead, use go ahead, use the other one all you want to, you know what I'm saying? So it's really just as simple, Takashi, all y'all, you know, out there that are getting the pass to do things, like, we got to get to a place where we can own all the pieces of who we are and also allow people to identify how they want to and not need to appropriate or control or judge how other people identify or the words that they use to identify.
Love it. I want to thank you so much for bringing up the IA plus and LGBTQ. This is going to be slightly self-promotional, but I feel like it's warranted because it's Pride Month. But I wrote a book that's called The Best at It. It's about a 12-year-old gay Indian American boy on his journey to self-discovery. And it feels appropriate for Pride Month because it was actually just named a 2020 Stonewall honor book. So that's like huge. But I've been doing these virtual classroom visits. And I asked kids, I said, how many of you are reading books? I was speaking to a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance club. And I said, how many of you are reading books where you see yourselves in the characters? And a kid who I think was maybe 13 years old said, you know, I really haven't found any books on asexuals. And so I just want to just put out like the conversation. We need to continue to evolve the way we think about our own community. It is a big, diverse community, and we have to include everybody. So thank you for bringing that up. You guys, we have so many questions. I'm definitely not gonna be able to get to all of these. I am so excited though, because I want to share, this question like really stands out to me from the audience. And I think all of you can probably speak to this, but it says, I've heard all of you say some version of like, be who you are and have the courage to speak your truth. This is a question that says, what advice do you have for young folks who have done the work? They've protested, they've voted, they have had conversations with their friends and their family, and they feel like nothing has changed. Do you have any words of advice for those young folks? Margaret, maybe I'll start with you.
I think that I think it's different every day, and then new battles emerge every day. But I think, you know, what's great is that the new battles sort of present themselves, and then we get to see sort of different things play out. And you know, the leaders will present themselves too. And I think that we're also seeing that as well. Like I'm now looking back, and I remember when like Kaepernick took that knee, and it's just like the grace and beauty of that. Mm-hmm. And I wish that the world had embraced that for what it was. Yep. You know, the majestic gesture of that, which we'll look back historically and we'll look at that like it'll be like Gandhi or like MLK. Like that's such a beautiful thing, like to think about. Like that happened in our lifetime, and it's such a great thing to know. And so, I mean, I feel like I think we're gonna have much more of a sense of like history is happening now. So just remember it. And now we have a way to memorialize it, which social media is kind of forever, which is really exciting. So I think it's a really great thing to know. You know, we have more of a sense of like to encapsulate it all and to save it all. And I feel like, you know, our memory's porous, we know what's happening and we can save it and keep it.
Perfect. Perfect. Essera, what about you?
You know, going back to that Kaepernick thing, you know, so I guess when I propose to somebody, I shouldn't take a knee, right? Or if I, you know, it's like if I pray, I shouldn't take a knee because it would be disrespecting to God or the person that I just, you know, I'm in love with, right? It's so funny how people can twist that. To answer the question and stuff, be patient, right? I know we live in a world of the Insta famous and the Insta this and the all that, right? You want results now. But it's one of those things where the people that came before us, man, the struggle, the people that gave their lives before us, it wasn't just an overnight thing, right? Continue to protest, continue to use your voice, to find your voice. Like I said earlier, the thing below your nose and above your chin is called a mouth. Continue to do that. Voice your opinion, scream, shout with passion, conviction, and all of that, right? Don't just get frustrated because people aren't listening to you right now. But if we continue to move forward and keep our foot on the gas pedal and make sure that we work together to make change, then that's how we're going to do it, right? So don't be discouraged, right? Continue to do the great work that you're doing. If you're posting just because you want likes and people to comment, then that's the wrong way to post, right? I'm sorry. If you get upset because somebody didn't answer your post or do this, then that's the wrong way to post. Post with your heart, with love and compassion to get the message out. And if people read it, they like it, cool. If they don't, but there's so many of our younger generation and stuff that just they did live by that, right? Be patient, right? You know, do like the Care Bears, right? The Care Bears and stuff. You got to shoot love, positivity into the world, right? In the world right now that is chaotic and with so much pain, right? People are looking for answers, right? I tell you what, love has always been the answer, right? And love will be the answer, right? So I'm the Care Bear. I'm gonna shoot love into the universe. So anyway, that's I love you all.
Angelica, do you have thoughts on that?
I definitely agree on the be patient part. Life is very, very, very long. Yeah, I would just agree and say be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient.
So we have so many questions. I'm gonna try to get through some of these. I do want to ask this one. I think it's an interesting one, and maybe this is one that you'll have a connection to, Margaret. But it says, "What can we do as a community to stand up for the bisexual community? I feel like bi erasure is very common, and ironically, either people have to be in the closet or just choose to be gay because it's easier. There doesn't seem to be a conversation around bisexuality." Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's just talking about it, you know, because bisexuality is a real identity, and it's something that people don't understand, because I think a lot of people use bisexuality as an identity when they're afraid to come out, or when they want to use it as sort of a holding pattern, in that like they want to say, well, I'm bisexual in order to give people some sort of weird hope that they might be straight at some point. I don't know why people would say like bisexual is better. It's weird, but it is a real identity, and sometimes people use it as a kind of a holding pattern. But it's a real place to be, and it's totally legitimate place to be, and I live it. And it's not a placeholder, and it's not a painful place to be, and just to speak your truth, and it's okay.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer. Essera, I want to throw this question your way, because I think you could probably speak to it pretty well. It says, oftentimes, our adults only define bullying as the stereotypical things you see in movies, like kids shoving each other at the lunch line. How do we expand adults' understanding of the ways that bullying and oppression show up in our world?
Wow, I think education, right? I think a lot of we need to, people need to share their stories. I mean, sometimes people sort of kind of, are afraid, right, to say something, right? And so one of those things and stuff, I think we need to, again, to use our voices to educate people, to put it out there so people to learn about, the different types of, cyberbullying or, I mean, for me and stuff, the frustration thing about this is that it's something that can be prevented, right? That we can all work together and prevent this by just educating and supporting, right? And so for me to see a child that commits suicide because he's gay and stuff like that, it really pisses me off a little bit, because when you sort of kind of learn about his environment and where he, and where he or she was at, it was something that could have been so simply just solved, right? And so a lot of people don't take it serious. It's one of the number one things that are happening out there that we need to sort of kind of come together. And I know, Margaret, you work with a lot of anti-bullying programs and stuff like that, which is awesome, right? Amazing. And so we need to just sort of kind of put a lot more education out there. Education and power, right? Visualization is power. Everything that we as a group here talk about, right, will help, not just with that situation, with everything else.
You know what? I just wanted to add really quickly, just even an advice for the young people, because now that I actually thought about something, and just, sometimes the reality is when you're thinking, oh, I want change now, and things need to change now. Yes, be patient, but also the reality is sometimes you're going to have to break the law. And the reality, because, slavery was like legal, and, abolitionists were the ones doing the crimes, so if you think about it this way, I remember a pastor when I was in church, I remember a lesbian pastor tell me once, because I was just struggling with the fact that as a trans person, my identity was being rejected. And, I would have to go to a place like the DMV to get my ID. And, the girls, we learned a little trick where we would leave it blank. We wouldn't check male or female. And that, whoever was behind the counter, if we were just presenting in our best way, we could get them to check the box for us, sort of situation. But in any regard, like, even then I say that I would have still checked the box female, because sometimes you have to be that radically honest, because in reality, that would be me breaking the law. Or, committing some sort of fraud, and the reality is the system is a fraud. I am not.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow.
I want to be very cognizant of the fact that we just have a few minutes left. I feel like I could talk to you guys for another 3 hours, and based on like literally the questions are blowing up, and I feel like everyone's kind of stayed with us the entire time. So, but I do want to be cognizant of time. I'm sorry that we couldn't get to everybody's questions, but we also, just so you know, we do try to answer these questions also and send out an email afterwards. And so we'll try to be able to do that. I just want to ask all of you very quickly. We try to end each of these convos with this thing that we call a kindness table. And the way we envision it is literally like a table where a parent, a teacher, a student can all come together and do one thing at home today that is actually an act of kindness. But I want to shift that today, because I think we've all talked about the need to be educated. And certainly I think in the movement against racism, there's this idea that people shouldn't be looking to us to educate them. They should be educating themselves. And so although all three of you have been so generous in speaking your truth and sharing your life story, I want to ask if there's one book, podcast, article, a video, a website, one place a young person can go to at home today to learn something about the history of LGBTQ culture or racism or anything that you feel that they should learn. Essera, I'll start with you.
Well, I think, I mean, there's so much stuff out there, right? That at their fingertips. I mean, to Google Stonewall and learn about that is probably be a good, a first step, right, for the LGBTQ to sort of understand like where this all originated from, right? But obviously, to prefer a book, I would have to say James Baldwin, the civil rights. I think he would be. There's a book called Fire Next Time that maybe they could like that's they could absolutely amazing. So just Google him and you'll find out more information. I could talk all day about him and all this, the things that he was a poet, he was a novelist, he was all of that, an advocate, activist, all of that stuff. But just Google him. And I tell you what, I think, but Obama also uses a lot of his quotes. And that is the person that I would put forth out there for people to Google and to buy his books and to educate themselves.
Definitely. And by the way, you can still, like so many bookstores are doing online orders and delivery, and you can definitely still get books.
Right.
Margaret, besides the Margaret Cho podcast, which everybody needs to be listening to, do you have a recommendation for somewhere? And if that's what you were going to say, you can still say it.
Yeah, well, that too, but also the Criterion Channel this right now is doing a free Black filmmakers, all the amazing Black filmmakers in the history of Black film is free right now. And Cheryl Denier's films are on there, which is incredible queer Black female cinema, amazing stuff. And there's also another great Black Panthers documentary from the 70s, which is incredible. So everybody should watch that. And I think they're doing a queer-sided cinema, which is amazing queer films for the month of June. But it's a lot. I mean, all of the Black queer cinema stuff is like, it's just important because we lost so much of that. You know, we have so little understanding of what Black cinema looks like in this country. We lost so much of it and we don't know what's happening. And so we need to catch up.
Thank you. Thank you. Angelica?
Well, I would just say listen to Black trans women. And there's just so many of us that out there. So like Hope Giselle has this podcast called Can We Talk? Janet Mock has several books, Redefining Realness and Surpassing Certainty. Lady Dane Figueroa Adidi is a writer. There's amazing people like that. But I also want to point out a book for the youth. It's called Discussions on Youth. And it's by Daisaku Ikeda, who is a Japanese man. He's a president of this SGI Buddhist organization. But what's incredible is the entire book is just littered with, it's discussions on youth. And so it's talking about being a good friend to other people, being a good friend to people who can't afford good schools, being a leader in your community, like all these things that really aren't denominational, but you'll really understand the spiritual intention of sort of elevating your level of humanity, your awareness of your humanity and other people. Discussions on Youth.
Ah, my gosh, I can't. I hope that we will take a look at all of those things. I just want to say, as always, take a minute. It takes a minute. Visit actochange.org. You can take a pledge to stand up to bullying. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. It helps us to amplify our message. We're a nonprofit, so if you can make a contribution, that's always really helpful. Also, we have a list on actochange.org of solidarity resources, particularly around racial and social justice work in the fight for Black Lives Matter and Black Trans Lives Matter. So you can also visit our website to find out how to donate and support those organizations. I hope that you will. Also, if you want to be part of the change that we are trying to make happen, we are going to be taking applications to join our board. So please follow us on social media to find out when those applications are going to be open. So I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. There's so many organizations who helped us promote and live stream this. Next Shark, Angry Asian Man, Teach for America, Asian American News, Hate is a Virus, CAPE, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Stage 13. Oh, my screen just went away. Stage 13, Helen Zia, Padma Lakshmi, Tan France, and Celia Au, and I Am Not a Virus, and everyone at Act to Change who works so hard every few weeks to put this together. Thank you so much. I just want to close. There's a quote by Micah Pizant, who made the very iconic poster of Marsha P. Johnson that we all know by now. And that quote is, "No pride for some of us without liberation for all of us." So let's keep working together. Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you so much, Essera. Thank you so much, Angelica. I'm so grateful that you joined us for this today. Everyone, please follow them on social media to stay in touch with them and see about the work that they're doing. Together, we can put an end to bullying and hate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. You are all amazing, and I am so incredibly grateful. And it's so nice to get like a brief minute to reconnect with all of you. And Esther, I know we're meeting for the first time, and Angelica, I feel like we met for like a minute, but I've loved you since
Yeah,
then.
in the Hamptons, yeah.
Yeah. So
In the Hamptons, yeah.